We got to get right into things, man. Todd Monken not playing games. Major culture shift happening in Cleveland.
As long as you also know how to say you're sorry, or as long as you're not, also know how to take accountability and leadership for that.
Players know how to sniff out phoniness, okay?
Todd Monken just made a huge change in Cleveland, and it is going to directly shape Shedeur Sanders' future. A full culture shift. Monken is bringing a brash, authentic, accountability-first style to a franchise that has been soft and dysfunctional for years, and here is why it matters for Shedeur. A coach who values authenticity and toughness, who can be hard on you but also own his mistakes, is exactly the kind of leader who develops a young quarterback the right way. The same culture that judges Shedeur is the one that could finally build him. Here is everything. Let's start with the change itself, because it is bigger than one hire. A full expose came out in the Baltimore Sun on Todd Monken, and the takeaway was clear. There is a major culture shift happening in Cleveland, and the people covering the team say it is badly needed. Monken is not coming in to be everyone's friend. He is coming in to set a hard standard, and in his own words, he embraced exactly that. He said he can be difficult, that people call him brash or hard, whether it is coaches or players, and that it is a hard business. He owns the edge. He is not hiding it. And here is the part that matters for Shedeur. A coach who sets a hard, honest standard is the best possible thing for a young quarterback trying to prove himself, because it means Shedeur gets judged on the truth, not on politics.
Monken went further, and this is the quote that frames the whole culture. He said he hates, with a passion, when people claim old-school coaches or brash, aggressive coaches do not work anymore. He pointed to Dan Campbell in Detroit as proof, and said Campbell is not even an anomaly. He named Nick Sirianni, the Harbaughs, coaches whose public personas might look different, but who are all demanding and aggressive behind closed doors. Monken's point was that intensity wins as long as it is real, and that tells you exactly what kind of environment Shedeur is walking into. Not a country club, a demanding, high-standard, prove-it-every-day kind of building. Now connect that to Shedeur's situation. For a year, the knock on Shedeur from parts of the Cleveland media has been vague. He is too much. He is not good enough. No specifics. In a Monken culture built on authenticity and accountability, that kind of empty criticism does not survive. Monken's whole philosophy is about being real, being direct, and backing up what you say. That environment rewards a player who shows up, works, and produces, which is exactly what Shedeur has been doing. The culture shift is not just a vibe, it changes the standard Shedeur gets measured by.
We got to get right into things, man. Todd Monken not playing games. Major culture shift happening in Cleveland. Major culture shift, and it's much needed.
Did a full expose with the Baltimore Sun, and there were some fun Todd Monken-esque quotes in them. But some of the quotes coming out, he's saying, I'm very difficult when somebody says, maybe you're brash or you can be hard, whether it's coaches or players. It's a hard business. And he also talked about him thinking he's authentic, but that maybe some coaches or players or whatever don't like that approach. I hate, absolutely hate, with authority, with a passion, when people say old school coaches don't work, or aggressive coaches or brash coaches don't work. Dan Campbell is one of those guys.
I was just about to mention him.
And he's not an anomaly, by the way. Just because they don't do press conferences the way Dan Campbell does doesn't mean that they're not brash or demonstrative or demanding.
So why is this brash style actually good for Shedeur and not a threat to him? Because of the one thing the panel said separates coaches who succeed from coaches who fail. Here is the key that makes Monken's style work in Shedeur's favor, and the panel nailed it. Being brash is not enough on its own. The coaches who fail with that style fail because they cannot back it up with accountability. The analysts said it directly. You can be brash, you can be blunt, you can be demanding, as long as you also know how to say you are sorry, as long as you know how to take accountability and show leadership, because players, in his words, know how to sniff out phoniness. That is the difference between a Dan Campbell, who players run through a wall for, and a coach players tune out. That is the whole thing. A demanding coach who is also authentic and accountable earns trust. A demanding coach who is fake loses the room. And Monken, by every account, is the real version. He is hard, but he owns his stuff. For a young quarterback like Shedeur, that is the ideal teacher, someone who will push him hard and also be straight with him. The panel backed this up with a contrast that hits home for Browns fans. They talked about Kevin Stefanski, the previous coach, and made a sharp point. Off the air, they said, Stefanski was a genuinely funny, sharp guy, but the moment you put him in front of cameras, he closed up, told you nothing, and did not let anyone in. And they said that inauthenticity was one of his biggest mistakes, because players felt it too. They even brought up the moment Stefanski said, "Have I ever lied to you?" after a win, and the camera caught Myles Garrett in the background with his eyes going wide and then rolling. The players sensed the phoniness. That is what kills a locker room. So the culture shift is a direct upgrade for how Shedeur gets coached. Out goes the closed-off, hard-to-read leadership that the players quietly doubted. In comes a coach who is blunt, authentic, and accountable, the exact combination players respect. For Shedeur, who has spent a year being doubted in vague, gutless ways, a Monken culture is a breath of fresh air. It rewards the real and exposes the fake, and everything Shedeur has done, the work ethic, the production behind a bad line, the maturity, reads as real. In a culture built to sniff out phoniness, the authentic player wins. That is Shedeur.
I think he understands you can be brash, you can be blunt, you can be whatever, as long as you also know how to say you're sorry, or as long as you're also know how to take accountability and leadership for that.
Players know how to sniff out phoniness, okay? Todd brings an element of authenticity. I think one of the areas where Kevin struggled, I would tell you guys off the air all the time just what a hilarious guy Kevin Stefanski is.
Yeah.
But then you get him in front of cameras and microphones, and it puts everyone to sleep, and he doesn't tell you anything, and he doesn't open up, and he doesn't let you in. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that Kevin made when he was here, because he wasn't a dummy. Did he? Now, do I agree with everything he did as head coach? No. Do I think he deserved to be fired? Yes. But at the same time, I think that if Kevin was more authentic publicly, I mean, go back to the clip. Remember,
but even
remember
what
the
you're
locker
saying,
room?
real quick, even the players, I think, felt like he could be inauthentic.
Yes, because remember the one clip where Kevin said, and the Browns put it out on their social media, and Kevin, after a win, I forget which one, but he was like, "Have I ever lied to you?" And the look on Myles Garrett's face in the background, his eyes got real big, and then he rolled them.
And here is why this matters even more for Shedeur. The panel explained the one thing that breaks coaches, and it is the exact trap a young quarterback needs his coach to avoid. The panel made a point about coaching failure that connects straight to Shedeur's development, and it is worth sitting with. They said the coaches they have seen fail in Cleveland, and there have been a lot, mostly failed for one of two reasons. Either they had no business being NFL head coaches in the first place, like a Pat Shurmur or a Freddie Kitchens, guys who maybe knew football but did not have the right mix of personality and leadership, or, and this is the bigger one, they were coaches who let losing change them. The analyst pointed to Hugh Jackson, whose weaknesses got magnified the moment the losing piled up, and to Mike Petney, whose second year saw losing fundamentally change how he interacted with his players. That is the trap. A coach who is one person when things are good and a completely different person when things go bad. Players feel that shift and they stop trusting him. And for a young quarterback, nothing is worse than a coach whose belief in you evaporates the second the team hits a rough patch. And here is why the panel is high on Monken specifically for this. They said the benefit of hiring a 60-year-old coach who has been through everything, college, the pros, coordinator jobs, position coach jobs, who has been fired before and seen people fail around him, is that he is equipped to handle adversity without changing who he is. The analyst said he would be shocked if Monken, even at 1-8, suddenly became a different coach, because Monken has the wealth of experience to stay steady, and steadiness is exactly what develops a young quarterback. Shedeur needs a coach who will coach him the same way in a losing streak as in a winning one, who will not panic and bench him or lose faith the first time he throws a pick. The panel used Dan Campbell as the model again, and it is the perfect blueprint for Shedeur. Campbell was a laughingstock his first year and a half while the Lions lost, but because he did not change who he was, he steadied the ship, finished his second year strong, avoided getting fired, and used that as a launching point to the playoffs in year 3. That is the path. A demanding, authentic coach who stays consistent through losing, builds a culture, and then wins. If Monken is that guy, and the panel believes he is, then Shedeur is walking into the exact environment a young quarterback needs to develop. Not a coach who will bail on him, a coach who will hold the standard and stick with it.
Yeah.
The guys, now beyond those guys, the guys that I've seen fail, it's been people who losing changed you. Hugh Jackson. Guys, I think Hugh Jackson, if his second spot had come at a spot where they were going to win, I think what happened is the second they started losing at that level, the Hugh's weaknesses became magnified. And I think Hugh changed with the pressure of losing and being associated with that level of losing. That's not entirely on Hugh.
And your overselling ultimately ended up what lost you any and all credibility.
Yes. And so I think
Trust
Mike Pettin,
me on this one, Nick.
Mike Pettin, year 2.
Yeah.
I think was a guy who losing changed fundamentally how he interacted with his players. If they start the season 1-8, I don't think he's going to change with that. I think one of the benefits of hiring a guy that's 60 years old, that has been through a myriad of different, in college, in the pros, as a coordinator, positional coach, who's been fired before, and on different staffs have been fired. Like, I think this guy is kind of equipped to do this because he has a wealth of worldly experience, and he has seen people fail around him. Yeah. And he knows this is his one chance. Like, I just would be shocked if, like, the number one cardinal sin you can't do, the reason why Dan Campbell.
And the panel dropped one more comparison that should make every Shedeur fan feel good. It is about building a real team versus building around one guy, and it points straight at the quarterback decision. Here is the comparison that ties the whole culture shift to the quarterback room, and it is a sharp one. The panel contrasted two coaches from the same season. Robert Saleh and the Jets built their entire year around Aaron Rodgers, and the moment Rodgers got hurt, the season fell apart because there was no team underneath him. It was all about one guy. Conversely, that same year in Cleveland, Kevin Stefanski went through 5 different quarterbacks and still kept the team competitive because he had actually built a team that could overcome that kind of adversity. Now apply that to right now. A culture built around one expensive veteran is fragile. A culture built on a real foundation can survive anything, including a quarterback change, and that is the Monken bet. Build a tough, authentic, accountable team that does not live or die on one player. In that kind of culture, the best quarterback plays, period. Not the most expensive one, the best one. That is the part that directly affects Shedeur. In a soft, closed-off, politics-first culture, the $230 million veteran starts because of the money, and the young guy waits no matter how he plays. But in a real, accountability-first culture, the standard is performance. If Shedeur is the better quarterback, a Monken culture is built to recognize that and act on it, because the whole point of the culture is authenticity over phoniness, substance over optics. A coach who hates phoniness is not going to start a quarterback purely for the optics of a contract if a younger guy is clearly outplaying him. And the panel made clear that authenticity is what players crave from leadership. They do not want to be sold a bill of goods. They do not want to be performed to or told what they want to hear. They want the truth. And here is the quiet truth that the Monken culture is built to surface. Shedeur Sanders has been the most authentic, hardest-working, most productive young quarterback in that building, and he has done it while being doubted at every turn. A culture that rewards real over fake is a culture that eventually rewards Shedeur. So when you hear that Todd Monken made a huge change in Cleveland, understand what it really means for number 12. The soft, closed-off, politics-first era is over. The demanding, authentic, accountability-first era is here.
And that era is built to let the best, realist quarterback rise, which is exactly the environment Shedeur Sanders has been waiting for.
Robert Saleh, I'll go to the Jets, okay? Oh, thank God that Aaron Rodgers, that was the whole Hard Knocks season, was how happy that they had Aaron Rodgers there, and their season, once Aaron got hurt, the season fell apart. Well, yeah, you never built a team. It was all about Aaron Rodgers. Conversely, that same year here in Cleveland, the Browns went through 5 different quarterbacks. Kevin Stefanski that year actually built a team, and so they were able to overcome all that adversity. And so you're right. I mean, people in general, when it comes to leadership, they want authenticity.
So let me put the whole thing together, clean, because this culture change matters more for Shedeur than any single practice rep. Run it back. Todd Monken made a huge change in Cleveland, a full culture shift documented in a Baltimore Sun expose. He's brash, demanding, and authentic, and he owns it. Pointing to Dan Campbell and the Harbaughs is proof that aggressive, real coaches win. The panel explained the key. Brash only works when it comes with accountability, because players sniff out phoniness, which is exactly where the previous coach, Kevin Stefanski, fell short. Closed off and inauthentic enough that even Myles Garrett rolled his eyes. They explain the trap that kills coaches, letting losing change you, and why Monken's experience makes him steady enough to avoid it. And they contrasted teams built around one guy, like the Jets with Rodgers, against teams with a real foundation that survive a quarterback change. The through line for Shedeur is simple. A culture built on authenticity and performance, not optics and money, is a culture built to let the best quarterback rise. The soft, phony, politics-first era in Cleveland is over. The demanding, authentic era is here. And the realest, hardest-working quarterback in that building is Shedeur Sanders. Let's bring it home. Todd Monken's huge change is not just a new attitude, it is a new standard, and it directly affects Shedeur Sanders. Monken is bringing a brash, authentic, accountability-first culture to a franchise that has been soft for years. The panel made it clear that style wins when it is real, the way it does for Dan Campbell, and it dies when it is fake, the way it did for the closed-off previous staff. A culture that rewards authenticity over optics and performance over politics is the exact environment a doubted, hard-working young quarterback needs. Shedeur has been the realest, most productive guy in that building while getting doubted the whole way. In Monken's culture, that is finally an advantage. Drop a comment. Does Todd Monken's culture shift help Shedeur win the job, or do you still think the money keeps Watson in front? Smash like and subscribe.